official,
Yeah.
okay?
Hmm.
Okay, I am
Yep.
recording this. So
Okay.
we're now
Awesome.
official, and I
Awesome.
can edit like what I'm talking to you now because I do editing. If I put it up, I'm
Yeah.
gonna edit, so don't worry. So
Okay.
now we just do we make this formal or informal to start? Hi, Brian.
It's super up to you. Well, I
Hi,
mean, we can do
Brian.
whatever. Yeah. I mean,
It's the
we
second time, but like we're
that's right.
officially saying
Yeah.
hello to each other. So
Yeah.
what's the weather like in California?
Weather in California is very rainy right now, and
Yeah,
it's unusual. We can go months without any rain, and then suddenly we have a downpour, and we're in the downpour right now. So,
I see. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
So you're not in your office this time, is that correct? Or that's your home
No,
office?
this is I'm upstairs at my house. We have one room upstairs, and it's kind of a weird combination. It's like got a computer up here and a guest bed, and then also like a piano for my son Max. My son Max plays the piano.
Oh, oh, cool. He's
So
playing piano.
he is, yeah, yeah. He plays
So
piano and clarinet,
awesome.
not at
So
the
you're
same
teaching
time.
him Chopin and Mozart.
I'm not because,
I'm joking.
but yeah, he does. He can play a little. He can play Chopin definitely, but Mozart,
Uh,
I don't know. He may know a piece or two, a short
that's
piece. Yeah.
that's
Hmm.
awesome. Actually, my first instrument was clarinet.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
my very first instrument when I was in the second grade,
Hmm.
I wasn't planning on talking about this today, but like I
Yeah.
wanted to play the saxophone actually when I was in second grade, and my mom goes, "Okay, this
Yeah.
is my report for you." Okay, so
Right.
this is my
Right.
recollection of my past, like way past.
Right.
And
Right.
my mom goes, "Okay, you want to play an instrument? That's fine because you stink at sports, and like we better get you an instrument so you can do something, because like I wasn't good at that stuff."
Hmm.
And so she goes,
Yeah.
"Okay, you can play an instrument. That's cool. Let me talk to the music teacher, right?" So she talks to the music teacher. Music teacher says, "Okay, he wants to play sax. Well, then he has to learn clarinet first."
That's
Why
right.
does he have to learn clarinet first? Because the fingerings are different. Okay.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
sax will be easier to play if he learns to play the clarinet first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, okay, mom, but I don't want to play the clarinet, but your teacher says you have to play it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, what can you do? You're a second grader and who's paying for the lessons, right? So you can't
Right.
say anything, right? So,
Right.
okay,
Right.
mom, I'll play clarinet. So I learned the clarinet, right? So six
Yeah.
years I played this instrument, I did band, I did all this stuff. Finally, 6 years later, okay, now you're ready to play the saxophone after
Hmm.
6 years.
Yeah.
So they get me a sax.
Hmm.
I get in the jazz band. I can't
Hmm.
play this thing. The fingerings is different. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And it feels weird. It's like you hold it this way instead of this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
1 year later, I'm like in the jazz band. I'm like, man, the drummer's leading the whole thing. I'm just one person of a row of sax players. I don't want to do
Yeah.
this. Mom,
Yeah.
can I
Yeah.
play drums? Anyway, dot, dot, dot. So
Right.
Max plays clarinet and
Well,
piano.
so yeah, I mean, and it's similar. It's like, I mean, I think he'd be happy to play the saxophone, but yeah, they always start you off with clarinet, it seems like, for better or for worse. And then
Oh,
we've
is it the same
learned,
for him?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't know if at this point he wants to play saxophone. He enjoys the clarinet at this point, so that's okay. And piano's definitely his bigger thing of those two things. He really likes to play piano.
How did actually we're here to talk about your reports, but I'm
Hmm.
having you do a report on Max's instruments, and
Right.
that's maybe not fair, but
No,
like
that's okay.
with me, I'm kind of this way. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
off the
That's
cuff style. I don't have
totally
like a
fine.
list of questions. I do have
Yeah,
some
yeah.
things I definitely do want to talk about in your
Okay.
reports, which
Yeah.
is the reason that you agreed to speak with.
Right,
But
right,
I just
right.
wondered if he like asked you to play. So piano is his main, right? So I have
So
a keyboard
yeah,
behind me.
right,
Um,
right.
but then why the clarinet? Did he want to play sax or did he just want to play a wind
Well, so
instrument?
so he so he was playing piano. He started piano very young.
Okay.
Kristen, my wife, um, a friend of hers was like, "Oh, there's this music class that's for like people who are like in kindergarten and first grade, and I want to take my son, and do you want to take your son too?" And so Kristen was like, "Okay," and then she got there and realized it was like a 2 year commitment. It was like the idea was that you'd start and then you just keep on doing this.
Ah,
And Max really he just loved it and like very quickly he could he's very his brain just works in terms of notes. It's like you can play a note blind to him and he'll play it back. And yeah,
right.
good ear, good ear.
Yeah.
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 And so he started doing that, was doing that for a while. And then I think it was in second grade, may have been in third grade at school. They were like, oh, if kids want to be in orchestra, we can do that. And we thought, oh, maybe he'll do keyboard in orchestra since he does piano.
Right.
But they had the choices were keyboard, drums, violin and cello, and I think that's about it.
Wow. Okay.
And then he kind of listened to all of them and tried all of them, and he really liked cello. I don't know why, but he really liked it. So, and he's kept
Cello?
it up. No, sorry,
No, I got surprised. I was like, oh, wait, so he
yeah,
plays cello too.
clarinet, violin and clarinet. I don't know that. Yeah, you can probably impossible to edit that out. It doesn't
Oh,
matter.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah, he clarinet and he just has kept on, and now he's in the Santa Clarita Valley Youth Orchestra. He plays clarinet there, and just he really likes it. But he's definitely more piano inclined, I think.
right,
So
right.
yeah,
That's totally awesome. And who knows? I mean, he may end up crazy like me, playing like 10 instruments by the time
that's right. Yeah,
younger than I did actually. But that's cool. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So
hmm
thanks for the report on your son. Because
Right,
I feel like
right.
I kind of, forced that one.
No, no problem. Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
But in fact, that's a good lead in a way, isn't it, to this
yeah.
today's, report on reports, or my report on your report on our,
Right, right.
some kind of thing with this now. And
hmm
to make things even, I love this, because I'm gonna do this thing, huh? You know, we've got a double here. We've got
Uh-huh.
reports, and then we've got the double report. And
Right.
I've got two of them on my screen. I've got a square on top with your face and your
hmm
name. I've got a square on bottom with my face
Right.
and my name. And
Uh-huh.
then I've got two squares, one on the left, which is reports,
hmm
and one on the right, which is called further reports.
Right, right.
So
Yeah.
actually, I've got four squares on my screen. And I
Uh-huh.
think this is not a bad way to start, because I wanted to talk about, in fact,
Yeah.
I'm going to read back to you your report, or
Okay.
part of your report. And
Sounds
then,
good.
actually, it's not one of your reports, it's one of your further reports,
hmm
to be
hmm
technically, which is your latest, if you will, volume. I believe this was published last year. Is that right? 2024?
Yes, last year.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is the more recent one. Opens with a report on travel.
hmm
And in the report on travel, we have the convenient Zoom boxes, don't we?
We do. Yeah. Yeah.
We have some Marxist thinkers here from various parts of the world,
Uh-huh.
and their
Uh-huh.
faces are in these, now familiar to all of us since COVID, which I'm assuming is around the time you were maybe writing this, or maybe not. It could have been post, or it could have been during 2020,
hmm
21. I don't know. And that you can
Uh
tell or not tell. It's up to you.
yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
the what I wanted to focus on here is, right, I started with the squares. Now, we have these squares and these faces, and since we're on Zoom, and since I'm also we're in different countries and in different time zones,
Right.
this piece
Right.
is kind of like I'm talking about mirror images, doubles, and reflections, and we're actually in this thing right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I
Yeah.
thought it would be a nice place to start. And conveniently, it's
Yeah.
also the first piece in further reports.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so you have what, six, and that's one too many for a row in Zoom. Is
Right.
that what
Right.
this was?
Yeah,
And
I mean,
so,
and so yeah, during the pandemic, I got involved in a Marxist reading group with my
yeah.
friend China Mieville was the one who invited me out to do that.
Trying to make,
And yeah, and so he was in London. There was someone, and I was in the US. There was someone else who was in Australia. And then I can't remember where the other people were, but there were a few other people. I probably say it in the report. I don't remember if I do or not. But we were
right.
kind of all over. And so it
Yeah.
really was like there were only a couple of hours that everyone could get on. And it was going to be either a little too early for one person or a little too late for one person.
Yeah.
But the thing, it's such a weird thing I mean, first of all, it's Zoom's amazing in that you can kind of connect to people
Yeah.
all over the world. I mean, that's great. It's morning for you and it's evening for me, and
Yeah.
we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was a kid trying to talk to people like in Europe, and there was always like on the phone lines a lag.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
not,
yeah.
and you don't have that now. I mean,
That's right.
it feels much more kind of immediate, despite glitches and things like that happen sometimes. So.
Yes.
But yeah, I found that if you took the Zoom thing, the size of my laptop, I could kind of stretch it out, and then it would kind of five would fit just perfectly across.
Yeah.
But then if one, and then if people logged on in just the right way, it would feel like it was like a map of the world in terms of like the
Uh-huh.
different time
Yeah.
zones.
Yeah.
And so that report is all about that. Yeah.
The funny thing is, because I know I mean, we've known each other for some years off and on. Obviously, we're living different places, and right, I
Yeah.
studied with you at Brown kind of thing. And I can imagine you doing that somehow. That doesn't,
Yeah.
like, I can
Yeah.
imagine you sitting there and getting this great satisfaction from that kind of alignment or
Yeah.
something like,
Yeah, I know there's something like obsessive about it or something. I don't know, but yeah, that's definitely something yeah, fits other things I do.
totally. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
run with this square theme for a bit, where I'm not the whole. I
Yeah.
mean, today's theme, like overall, is not necessarily have to be squares, but like to start with squares. I
Uh-huh.
just thought to make this thematic here. I love this, right? So you've got this map of these faces, and you've got this thing happening. Of course, this is like right post-COVID and Zoom, etc. And
Yeah.
then actually to fast forward in the same collection
Yeah.
later on, and I find parallels here with also the reports and the further reports,
Right.
and we'll go back and forth a bit, but I kind of thought maybe we should focus on further, but I actually want to say something about
Sure,
this. But
sure. Go
before I
go
do
back and
all
forth. Yeah.
this, let me
Mm-hmm.
jump forward
Mm-hmm.
to, and I'm doing now as I talk to you, so give me just a minute here, a report on squares.
Okay. All right.
So in other
Yeah.
words, right, we open with, it's a report on travel, but we have these squares in the Zoom.
Yeah.
And then we move forward and we have a report on squares.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course, my mind goes to the
Ah.
first story
Mm-hmm.
of the Wavering Knife, which is the first story of yours I ever read, which I said the last time we spoke, which is
Yeah.
White Square.
Right, right, right.
Now, these are different kinds of squares.
Yeah. Very
And I
different, but
don't
they're all
think that you
squares.
intentionally were like, I'm going to connect this report on squares to my white square from, when I wrote it and
Yeah.
kind of thing and published with FC2, which you're not right anymore. So,
Right.
but there is this interesting thing with patterns. And maybe you and I are both kind of like obsessed with patterns kind of people, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Like reading these kinds of, works of fiction and the kind of writing you do and the kind of writing I was doing at
Yeah.
Brown, even those
And
kinds of
the
things.
music you do too, I think. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that may be true, and that's
Yeah.
probably subconsciously or unconsciously.
Yeah, yeah.
That may be, yeah. It's interesting too because, like, I don't know about you, but I hated math and
Mm-hmm.
science classes. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
now I find it fascinating, like reading, quantum physics or and that kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
philosophy, which I'm interested, you're interested, or
Mm-hmm.
religious traditions, and of course, I want to get to the Mormonism and the rituals. There's some really interesting things
Right,
I want
right.
to get to here. And the mirrors, and that's also kind of squares in the weddings, the marriage ceremony.
Right,
That's
right.
different, but we'll get there. But anyway, um, I'm not letting you talk again. Maybe I
No,
should
no,
let
it's
you
okay.
talk
It's all right.
more.
Well,
But
but yeah, I mean, it is like
yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, I have that white square piece, which is,
right.
yeah, and kind of the significance of it's a very different sort of square, as you
It
said.
is.
And then a report on squares. So the white square piece is it's kind of it's art related. So you have kind of Zoom and interacting with colleagues in the you know uh, the first one, the first report,
The
which
travel,
suddenly I'm forgetting. Yeah,
yeah, it's travel,
report on
right?
travel. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then you have art kind of exhibit, and then also in the last one you have um, it's about a poet, and it's like just literally this poet I know
right,
whose first name starts with an A, Anselm Berrigan, and he does these he does a lot of different kinds of poems, but when I last saw him he was doing these poems where he would kind of make a box with letters and you weren't sure where to start or where to end a poem and where to read exactly.
right.
And so
So it's
yeah,
like a
and so it's
concrete
like
poem kind of thing, like
almost like a
vision,
concrete poem. Yeah,
right?
it's fair, it's visual, but it's like it's just the edge of a square, so they all look the same, you know.
Right.
And so, except that there's different letters that compose the sides of each new square poem.
Okay.
So yeah,
Right.
yeah. So and it's also you can't always tell where a word starts or stops or where
Right.
where you're supposed to start in it. So
I mean, yeah, just to read from your text, let me do that, actually, if you don't mind, since
yeah,
I have it.
go for it.
So A,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
poet, right? Tends to
yeah.
invent an eccentric form and then faithfully repeat its gesture over and over until he exhausts it, after which he never returns to it again. He might, for instance, write several hundred poems that consist of a single line that runs along the perimeter of the page, forming a square. There goes something crashing in my
Mm.
hallway. This square is made of a line, a single character thick, enclosing an emptiness. Now, part of the reason I wanted to read it back to you in a way is because, like, I also want to talk, if it's okay, or
Yeah,
discuss with
yeah,
you, like the
yeah.
language and the metaphors. The interesting thing, actually, my brain does this, and I go off, and it's like we start on one thing,
Hmm.
goes,
Hmm.
and that's how I go. Because
Yeah,
the other thing about this piece, which if we could even focus on this piece for a bit, I would like to.
yeah.
Some of the things you kind of go into here, which actually I think you're, what I find so interesting about these reports, like I think I said to you, like in a casual comment, they were hilarious and I was laughing a lot.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
what I realized in a way, like, this is something you talk about in your report, you talk about too, is how like there are different versions of things. Like, I'm going to jump around for a minute and come back. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
have a
yeah.
report in here where you're talking about the word seance in French and the word
Yeah.
seance in English, and
Hmm.
how you are experiencing seance in French because you're reading the French subtitles, and your wife and son are in a different seance because they're
Hmm.
listening to the English. So
Hmm.
you're sitting there viewing the same film, but you're in two completely separate worlds.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like a seance, right? And so you're
Hmm.
using that metaphor. And so, like, it's so interesting this way, how different. And I know this is something even we talked about the last time, if I'm recalling, about interpretation and about how, like, a reader interprets something, and
Yeah,
each person is experiencing something completely differently. We think we're
yeah.
watching the same film, but maybe we're watching totally different film in a way.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
I watch The Matrix, and someone else watches The Matrix, and they'll
Yeah,
go, yeah, man, I took the red pill, and so did I. And
yeah,
what's
yeah.
your, and it's like, are you sure you took the same red pill as
Right,
I
right,
did? 'Cause I'm not
right.
seeing it that way. I didn't
Yeah,
think it was an
yeah,
action adventure movie. I thought it was about, like
yeah,
Baudrillard or something. So,
yeah, yeah.
like this kind of thing, right? And then, so what was the point I was going to get to before I went off on the tangent? The report on squares, dot,
Yeah,
dot, dot.
yeah, yeah.
Um, okay, so what was it I was going to say?
Okay.
Um, okay, so yeah, what I wanted to say, I remembered
Uh-huh.
about the perspective, and I was using the example of your report on the watching a film, and it was as if you're watching different films. I actually was using that as a way to comment on my own perspective, how it changed the first time I read it. And by the way,
Hmm.
it's an admission I shouldn't make because this is being recorded and whatever, but I was kind of, drinking a wine or something. But you also have a
Yeah,
report on forbidden drinks in the
I
first
do.
volume. We could even go back to that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was kind of happily drinking wine at night and reading your stories, which I had started reading before I had gotten home. I was at a coffee shop doing my work and I was reading your stories, listening to music, doing this. I came home and I had some wine. I was reading the rest. And so I
Hmm.
was laughing a lot as I was reading the first volume. I just found a lot of those pieces which were personal and kind of funny, and I was just loving your perspective and laughing a lot. And then I read the second volume on its heels, and I finished the entire thing at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. I
Uh,
was kind of drained. I
uh-huh.
went to sleep. I think I taught the next day. I don't even remember if it was a weekend or not. I
Mm.
think probably I had to get up. But what I wanted to say was, so today, briefly, before
Yeah,
we met, as you know, I read some of these stories to my class and I posted that.
yeah,
But I wanted to reread some of the ones that I hadn't reread to the class.
right.
And I kind of focused on the second volume or the newer volume because that's newer, and I thought maybe we'd want to focus on that, or
Uh-huh.
you want to. So the first volume, I kind of remember some of the funny stories, like you're eating the thing and dropping the pieces I talked about with my students in this. But
Right.
when I went back to the second volume today for like 10 minutes, literally before, and kind of flipped through to just jog my memory, I read these maybe a week and a half ago, something,
Uh-huh.
originally. Um, I my impression had changed. This is what I was saying, like
Mm. Mm.
watching The Matrix, and we're watching a different film. And now my own impression of what I had thought, I said they're hilarious, which they are, or some of them really are very funny.
Yeah.
But when I reread several pieces in the second volume, some of the ones that I kind of,
Mm.
like I just like this one, the report on
Yeah.
I thought, this is more serious in a way, and it's more metaphorical. And again, this is
Mm.
my impression the second
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Not saying
yeah,
this is necessarily, but like
yeah.
philosophical. And of course, you have this background, right, in not only
Hmm.
literature but in literary theory and philosophy. And I know that you're deeply or were and have been, and you mentioned this in your interview on reports that I
Yeah.
listened to before I read the reports, which was, that you still think about those things. And I think your comment to that interviewer was something to the effect of like, these
Mm.
philosophers say this, but like, hey man, when I sit on a chair, I feel the chair under my
Hmm.
butter my
Hmm.
body, and
Yeah.
that's like, solid. But then,
Yeah.
philosophy will go off on these tangents, and
Yeah.
so okay, so getting
Mm.
back to
Yeah.
ground control to major. Okay, we get back to the touch the chair and I feel it again under, right? Let's touch the ground here again because Mark is
Right.
floating out on a tin can again around the
Yeah.
moon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Elon Musk's going to take us there, right? In his shuttle with Jeff and et
Exactly.
cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get back to the report on squares, shall we? Um,
Yeah.
um, and
Well, so and that one, so it has the
yeah,
art thing there, and it also has the stuff related to Mormonism, and
yes,
the
I want to get
and
into
so there
that.
are two different symbolic structures, I guess, that are being played around there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
And indeed, and I love this thing that you do. Oh, and I know what else. You see, it's like me talking. I have to let you talk more, but like
No,
I have
no.
so much to say, and then would love to hear kind of like to bounce off of. Yes, the philosophy, the philosophical aspect, the metaphorical aspect, the Mormonism, the ritual. And I'd like to
Hmm.
ask you about ritual actually today and let you
Okay.
talk about that
Yeah. Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
and actually in this one and also the one on the marriage with the nail and the mirrors, I want
Yeah.
to talk, I would like to ask you about that,
Hmm.
to maybe, expand on that. And also actually another one was and you did kind of, it is kind of funny the way you talked about, maybe it was in the first volume with
Mm.
the hands-on healing,
Yeah.
which also is, of course, serious
Uh,
because you were very ill.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But let me, yeah, see, I go off on too many tangents at once.
No,
Um,
and I honestly, I can't remember anymore which reports are in which volume.
yeah, right.
Even though,
Isn't that
yeah,
another thing,
hmm,
right? So, but
yeah,
I'll try to help you because I have them in front of me. But
yeah,
just to get to let's like let me focus in on this and let you speak about like there's
sure.
some lines in this that were brilliant, and also I know what else I wanted to say. The You've spoken about, and I'm often talking about this with my students because, as you know, I teach literature. I teach American
Hmm.
literature. I taught,
Hmm.
right? We did the first time I was teaching your work, and I teach Never Little, Never Grown often. I did again this semester with the students in my creative writing class. I give that as an example and have them write like a story about an
Yeah,
AI or a robot or some technology and
right.
human. And okay.
Yeah,
The where is that space between fiction and nonfiction, and where does it break or does it break?
yeah,
Where is the
yeah.
line or is there a line? I teach Paul Auster's The Red Notebook. That line is
Mm,
really there. This kind of reminded me of that, although totally different. Your style's totally
right, right.
and your
Yeah,
way
but
of
I like
doing.
his work a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Right, but like his early works about the story about
Hmm.
the father, and then the Red Notebook, which is of course a reference to the Red Notebook in City of Glass. But
Right.
Red Notebook are these stories, kind of like reports that are
Yeah.
nonfiction, but they're sort of
Hmm.
slippery. And is he, I asked my
Yeah.
students, do you think how much,
Mm.
what percentage of this do you think is real and how much did he
Yeah,
fictionalize?
yeah, yeah.
So, but this line you write, writing art can be just that, colon, writing, comma,
Hmm.
art,
Hmm.
period. But both can also be enclosures,
Mm.
rituals, demonic circles. Now, this sounds like
Mm.
Brian Evenson to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Whenever we're talking about rituals and demonic circles, that's like a Brian Evenson novel, right? But
Right,
this is
right.
your nonfiction.
Right,
And
right.
here we have your metaphor. So let me shut up and have you maybe say something, if you would.
Yeah,
It doesn't
I
have to
mean,
be specific, but about
yeah,
this.
I
Yeah.
can try to talk a little bit about it. I mean, well, so that's a tricky question in terms of where does the fiction
Oh,
start
I'm
or
not
where does the
asking you to,
nonfiction? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
right. But just that's
Well, and
interesting.
but it is like, I mean, it's a very different question about these pieces than it is about my what I think of as just my regular work, my
Right.
normal fiction.
Your alien work,
Um,
right?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay, okay. I'm just okay.
And
BK.
yeah, and some of them comment on it. I mean, there's there's the report on the lemon peeler, and then the report on the lemon peeler,
Right.
which is kind of talking about what was true and what was false about the first report. and how it kind of manipulated it. But I would say most of it's true. But if there's a moment when I can where I see a kind of I think I'm much more of a fiction writer than a nonfiction writer. And so if there's a moment that I can see a possibility that can take me in an interesting place, then I'm prone to exaggerate or twist a little bit or move in a
Yeah,
little bit different direction. But it's variable from piece to piece. Some are very direct,
sure.
others are not quite as direct
Right.
in terms of the relationship to life. And then there's one or two, I think maybe only in the first report, there's one I think that's totally fictionalized. And then there's another one that's like the last half of it is pretty fictional. So yeah.
Well, I asked my students actually because I read right some of these pieces to them, and
Yeah.
I had two classes and I read different pieces intentionally,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
read some for the first and for the second, and so I asked them about a report on being followed,
Right.
and I said, "Do you think this is fiction or nonfiction?" By the way, you might be surprised. Many of the several students thought that one was nonfiction.
Hmm. Interesting.
And I once, or not several, but like maybe two or three of a whole
Yeah.
class. Okay. And one student said he raised it, he said nonfiction. I said, okay, great. What makes it nonfiction to you?
Uh-huh.
And he said, just a feeling. I said, and then he said, sorry. And I said, no, that's good. That's good enough. Because like
Yeah.
the way we read fiction too, right? Just a feeling. I
Yeah.
mean, what does this mean? I don't
Yeah.
know. How do
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
interpret this? I don't know. But
Yeah.
just a feeling. But like, that one for me was a kind of it was like looking at a Magritte painting or something. And
Yeah.
it was like, classic Brian Evenson kind of
Yeah.
you have one in front and one behind, and you have
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole thing with identity, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
you translate all these French writers, so that's kind
Hmm.
of like a theme in a lot of the kind of fiction you translate in, right? And
Right.
we've talked
Right.
about too, like at Brown and stuff. So, but
Yeah.
like,
Well, so that one is like
yeah,
probably the most fictional one in there. It's not that there's not like moments
yeah,
where,
that's
and
what I
I
meant.
think if you know my other work, that's exactly right. You start to be like, oh, this
Right,
reminds me of these other things. And
right,
I think it did originate from me seeing the same person at a bus stop a couple of different times, and I'm like, there's this that moment where the thought kind of goes through your head, oh, what is something going on here? And then, of course, nothing was going on, but still, it's fun to
right,
kind
right,
of
right,
think
right,
it
right.
could be. Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's like that's the spark of the inspiration to
yeah,
write the story, though, right? So
right,
it's like,
exactly. Yeah. So it's a
um,
true moment that kind of inspires it,
right,
but I do this in my fiction too. It's like Collapse of Horses. That story kind of started by something I saw, which is these horses lying down in Golden Gate Park,
right.
and just the impression that made on me. And then it kind of went very fictional from there. And so this story does that too, even though I don't think it gets nearly as weird. So
Right. But this is
yeah.
in a volume of so-called reports, which are
Right.
supposedly kind of like nonfiction, kind of like Red Notebook. That's why I mentioned that.
Right,
Auster
right.
says that, but like obviously, right? Auster was a fiction writer. You said I wanted to be a little bit devil's advocate and a little bit
Hmm.
not mean, but like probably most interviewers won't like do this to you, so I have to do it and be a little bit, like I was
Okay.
gonna say you almost contradicted yourself in the statement. You said these are basically like you said something like mostly or 90%, or I don't remember exactly how you said
Yeah.
nonfiction, but I consider myself more of a fiction writer. Now I know what you
Right.
meant. In other words, you had the impulse to
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
said, but
Hmm.
like I thought, is he contradicting himself because he's saying they're nonfiction, but I'm a fiction writer. So why aren't they mostly fiction with a little nonfiction? Ah, see, but I'm joking with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
kind of thing. But what I wanted to say on a serious note, like
Yeah.
what that made me think when I said, is he contradicting? No, of course you're not. But in
Right.
the
Right.
same way, this goes to like how we interpret and how we can twist to say it is or it isn't. Like, so
Yeah.
I'm a fiction writer, but this is wink, wink, the really true Mark.
Right. Right.
Don't you
Right.
believe that story about the guy with behind and in front of?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
at the same time, what I want to say, and I mean this seriously, is like as a fiction writer, like when you're writing fiction, when any fiction writer writes fiction, it's like you just said, the collapse of horses. I saw
Yeah.
these horses lying there, and this was so
Hmm.
strange. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it became a
Yeah.
fiction, right? Now,
Right.
we all do this. I'm going to say we because I've been a fiction writer
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
write fiction
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
still do sometimes. So like,
Right.
I'm not like actively publishing kind of thing, but like, we do this, right? It's like, and I teach creative writing. So
Yeah.
it's like you get an image something happens to you, or you
Yeah.
see something, or you have a thought even,
Right. And it sparks
and it
something. Yeah.
sparks it. And so
Yeah.
these, what I felt, one of the reasons I love these so much in a way
Hmm.
is exactly because you just said, I'm more of a fiction writer. I
Hmm.
write fiction, or I have been like Brian Evenson is defining my first question to you last time, who is Brian Evenson? Brian Evenson defines Brian Evenson as a writer, right? A fiction writer, I think, in a
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
translator
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah.
father and a husband and all those things,
But
right?
yes, for most people, I'm a fiction writer.
But
Yeah.
yourself in a way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
But in a
Uh-huh.
sense, like what I'm trying to get at here, and I think you will like I mean, I'm asking you, but I'm not telling you. What is it?
No.
Like fiction also has elements of nonfiction,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the nonfiction, these
Yeah.
are also like totally like Brian Evanson. Like when I read
Yeah.
these,
Yeah.
I also get like Brian Evanson, but I also get Brian Evanson not only the person, but like the writer and the fiction writer.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah. I
make
mean,
sense? Like that's my
it
impression.
does make sense. No, and
Yeah.
I think,
And I
well,
love that.
yeah, yeah.
You
No, I
know?
think it's a good thing. So I think that these started because I had, been very sick at one point and
Yeah. Oh,
had
yeah, yeah,
been in
yeah.
the hospital for like 3 weeks. I talk about it in one of the reports and talk
You
about it
did.
more in the Raymond Carver book that I wrote. And and then also was going through a breakup at the same time, and so all that stuff was kind of going on, and I found that I couldn't kind of immerse myself in kind of longer writing, longer work.
Right.
And there was a lot of stuff I felt like I just wanted to think about and process and kind of go through. And so it kind of started with that. And started as a kind of playful exercise. I don't know if I would publish these. It started with that
Ah,
constraint of writing using people's initials instead of their names,
yes. Yes,
which
yes, 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 yes.
yeah, yeah, which I think the first one was, I don't remember which the first one was for sure.
Right.
But it may be a report on shares. If not, it's one like that. And so it was like I was
Yeah.
changing the names to protect the guilty, or or
Yes, yes,
however you want to define it. Yeah.
yes.
And but that also kind of, it felt, even that gesture of kind of like not using someone's whole name, just using an initial, kind of felt like it was freeing up a little bit of space for me, that I could be a little more playful and explore a little bit more and make connections that I might not make. And so I do think that they have a lot of the impulses of fiction. I think if you like, as you have been in class with me, I think you can really detect that, my personality in them in terms of how they kind of go. And they're very associative, which I think my mind tends to work that way. I would
Yeah.
guess your mind would work that way too. Yeah. So,
Yeah, for better, for
yeah.
worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Because,
Right.
that one of you staring at the ceiling and trying to relax your jaw to the side,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
so it's, yeah, for better, for worse, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that's why I love these so much. There could be, I'm sitting here like, but I taught a class I did my once a semester, once a year Kobo Abe lecture
Oh,
yesterday because,
wow, wow, great.
the
Yeah.
students can't wrap their heads around, his work sometimes. It's
Yeah.
really difficult. And, so like for 90 minutes, I'm just going, and it's like this kind of thing, right? Because it's like, um, what was I going to say about the association or being associated? Or
Yeah.
like, oh, I
Yeah.
know what I was going to say. Students are like, what the hell are we reading? And I have to do a 90-minute lecture to try to explain it. But
Yeah.
like, I'll sit there reading Abe Kobo, like laughing
Yeah.
hysterically. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what are you
Yeah.
laughing at? What's
Yeah.
funny about this thing?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like these, your reports were just so funny. But like I say, my impression the second time, and I kind of want to
Well, I
talk a
think
little bit more about
they're
like the
both in
square
there. I mean,
stories.
I think,
I really
yeah.
like the squares.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can talk about the square stories if you want. Yeah, I do think
Yeah,
the stories, the reports kind of change as you kind of read
they
them.
do.
So,
Yeah, I felt that
and
the
then
second time.
yeah, and I think that the thing, as I started to work on them, the thing I was really interested in, it feels very Japanese in a way, to me, was like small things, tiny things, and
Yeah,
little details, and having that to hold on to in some ways. So,
yeah,
the fact that you have shampoo bottles that may look the same when you look at them, but they feel different when you touch them.
yeah,
And
yeah.
those are things, I mean, we kind of, those sorts of things are things we experience all the time. but
Totally.
we tend not to think about them, or we're busy with other things. And so just trying to put myself in a contemplative enough space that I could think about those things, or think about a line in something I was reading, depending on and have that as something I can kind of extrapolate and play with and see where it takes me. So, but I forgot the question you asked me.
It doesn't matter, does it? Because I mean, we're just going, we're riffing. But
Right,
no,
right.
actually, because this is how I do too, because it's like I'm a
Yeah,
confusing to talk to maybe because, right, that associative thing. But like what you just said reminded me of something else. You mentioned contemplative. Firstly, you
yeah.
said it's kind of Japanese. You know what I thought?
What?
I thought of Stephen Millhauser.
Oh yeah,
It's
Milhouse's a good one. Yeah,
Milhauserian because like those
yeah,
miniatures, huh? And
yeah,
like focus on this one minutia thing. Because I also teach
yeah,
Milhauser's fiction, by the way.
yeah,
Japan. So like introducing students here, right? There was kind of like, but what you said about contemplation,
yeah, yeah,
actually, that's another point that like I was focusing on the squares and the ritual, and we can maybe come back to the Mormon ritual.
yeah,
It's quite
yeah, yeah.
interesting.
Hmm.
But actually, what you just said now set me off on another thing to mention and maybe ask you about. These do have, I felt, a sense of that, like you say,
Yeah,
like the bottle, and of course, there's the association of like who taught you to do, and then how did that set your memory off into the
right.
past. And
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
if I may present you a question about
Sure.
memory,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of pieces here about how memory works
Hmm.
and about how memory deceives.
Yeah.
And what was true and what was not, or how did I remember it, or was it an alternate thing that actually happened, but then
Hmm. Hmm.
like we got into here and you're like, I'm not sure which stories are in the first and which are in the second. Like our
Right.
brains do that. And I do too.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, which was it, or
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
thing, right? So maybe you
Yeah.
could comment on that because there's a lot of that in these pieces, which I
Yeah.
find,
Yeah.
like a human thing, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's a lot about just the way in which memory works in general. My lights are flickering. I don't know if
Yeah, I
it's the
like that
storm.
because it's the haunted
Yeah.
house,
Yeah, yeah.
interview with Brian Evenson, the haunted house.
Yeah.
Are your lights okay though? I go with the rainstorm. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like some of the pieces I started just to kind of like clarify some things for myself.
right.
And often it was, about a memory about something that happened, or thinking about something, or
Yeah,
trying to redirect or repurpose it.
sure.
And so I think, a lot of it is about memory and how we remember things, but there are, stories or reports that kind of are pushing the memories in new
Yeah,
directions as well. So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, memory is a really weird thing. It's like
it
I
is.
can remember when I was a kid. It's like if I go to my sister now and ask her about something that's really vivid for me that happened,
Yeah,
she'll be like, I have no memory of that whatsoever.
totally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's, I had actually someone from high school wrote to me by email, and he was like, we haven't been in touch for years, but we're friends on Facebook now, and I just wanted to let you know I felt so bad about blah 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 that happened,
yeah,
and I hope you can accept my apology.
yeah.
And I had to write back and be like, I don't even know
What
what
are
you're
you
talking
talking
about.
about?
Yeah. And
Totally.
so in a way, and it's so, what a drag. It's like he's
Yeah,
carried this around for
that's right.
years, this kind of pain related to something there. He felt like he'd done something to me that was awful. And I literally, whatever it was, I just shrugged it off. And
Right.
yeah, yeah. So
But isn't that a kind of lesson, like to talk about that? I'm almost going back to the contemplative thing of like, when
yeah,
it comes to like being human, like we might hold on to something that's utterly painful or
yeah,
utterly like traumatic for us.
yeah,
But like for the other person, we think it's equally either
yeah.
traumatic or we hurt them or they hurt us. Maybe
Hmm.
they, maybe someone, okay. Um, so we feel someone has hurt us and we're
Right.
carrying that pain around and we
Hmm.
think maybe they, like maybe they think they didn't hurt us. Or maybe
Hmm.
they think like you were such a jerk, man, you should be sorry. Or whatever
Right.
it is. But like that goes back to how like we could be watching two different films
Right, right,
or
exactly.
taking two
Yeah,
different red
yeah,
pills to use that metaphor. But like
exactly.
each of us carries a different thing that may have
Yeah.
absolutely nothing to do with
Well, and
the
and
other,
I think the reason for that is that
right?
we interact with a kind of model of the world that we reproduce in our head,
Yes,
rather than with the world itself. It's like it's kind of processed kind of internally, and
right.
so and that processing is different for everybody. And so we really
Absolutely.
are, it's we're interacting with the same thing that's literally out there, but like our model of what's going on is different for everybody.
Absolutely.
And that, yeah, so it is. It's like I have this all the time. You probably have it all the time when you teach too. It's like everyone reads the same book, and
Yeah.
and you're like, you did not read the same book I read.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. And of course,
Hmm.
for students, and depending on the level too, right? Like
Right, exactly.
the
Yeah.
more beginner level, they sometimes have like sometimes, right? You get a sharp comment. Sometimes they're like, like what?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
where did
yeah.
that come from? But that's interesting. Oh, yes,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
interesting. Like you
Yeah,
don't want to say
exactly.
you're wrong because it's not A,
No,
B, C, or D, but it's like right.
right.
It's
But
like maybe
sometimes they're wrong.
something else. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, sometimes it's just off. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely. You
yeah,
gotta,
yeah.
of course, you got to bring it back to center as
That's
the
right. Yeah,
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
that's yeah. Um, so I mean, gosh, there's so many things, but like let's for a moment maybe
Hmm.
return to some of the specifics of some of these stories that I found fascinating reading the second time. The first
Yeah.
volume I was just like laughing and also not just laughter like funny haha, of course. When I say I'm
Yeah.
laughing, it's your perspective that in at times really just, hit me in a certain way that
Right, right, right.
funny
Yeah.
bone, okay?
Right,
But like
right.
obviously there's very serious things beneath the laughter too. And
Yeah.
actually that or there can be, like you said, like feeling you're working through, for example, if I may say, because you said it yourself and I've read
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
breakup,
Right, right,
a
right.
move,
Hmm.
being sick and really sick, and then
Yeah.
having like in the middle of being sick and having a breakup and having
Yeah.
something else on top. Now, let me just quickly say, I mean, during COVID, that was me. I wasn't sick, but
Yeah.
I was in the middle
Yeah.
of a breakup, a move, and COVID, and not enough work, and everything falling
Right.
apart. I just come to Tokyo. And
Right.
the way that I have dealt with that over the years is a
Hmm.
little bit different than you. And this is interesting. Like you started writing these reports, and you said to me, I wasn't sure whether even I was going to publish it. It was kind of like doing it
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
myself, and then
Yeah.
use the letters instead of the names, and that
Yeah.
for you to do. See, in my case, like I did it through, well, through music, for
Hmm.
example.
Hmm.
My album Untitled from 2020 and Hope, which is dealing with
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
stuff, like it's all in there. And actually, it's
Yeah.
really dark. It's not funny at all. Unfortunately, those
Right.
albums are not happy at all. But
Yeah.
like, and then also writing, because like then several years later, I wrote this long essay that was basically about music, but or I do
Yeah.
talks with this. So we're doing it this way, right? Like some
Right. Well,
uh
and I think it is
form
something
of
about,
exorcism
yeah.
or
It's
something.
partly a form of exorcism, and I do think there's moments in your life or moments in the world where something happens that you feel like your artistic practice has to kind of shift or change.
And it
And
does.
so I think the first one for the first reports book, it was, being really sick in the breakup and feeling just kind of really rootless.
Yeah.
And that ended up leading to writing those. And I wrote a few, and then I didn't know if I'd do anything for them. Someone asked me for something for a magazine, and I was like, oh, I have these weird little things I'm doing that are really different from my other work, and
Yeah.
they wanted them, so we kind of went from that. And that's how I started publishing them in magazines, but I still didn't know if I'd publish them kind of in a book. And then the second one, I think I started writing once COVID was here.
Yeah, that
And
right, because it starts with the Zoom
yeah,
boxes. That's where
exactly.
we started to
Yeah.
do that. That's what I thought. Yeah.
And so that was another
Yeah.
thing. I mean, like what you're talking about, it's like with your music during COVID, it's like something has to change or shift, or it's a way, in
Yeah.
a way of keeping sane as much as anything, I guess. And
Yes.
it's interesting. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, it's interesting that what I was normally, and when I was writing the second book, I was also doing stories and things. First
Right.
book, less so, to be honest. Um, and I'd say the first book they were written kind of more closely together, and then the second book it was kind of spread out over time. But yeah, it was. I think that as things kind of change and as you change, I think there's these moments that it's like almost like a where the way in which you've been responding with art to the world or with art to whatever just feels like it's not quite right anymore, or it's not right for this moment. And then you may
Absolutely.
go back, but if you go back to what you were doing before, it's usually at least a little bit transformed and changed.
Absolutely. If I may say something on that, like with identity, which of course has been a theme throughout in your work,
Yeah.
a lot of the work,
Yeah.
and like the White Square, the first piece that I
Hmm.
read, that what attracted me to your writing in a sense, like hooked me because that was so strongly there and it kind of felt French or European, right? Because you
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
philosophy and all. So okay,
Yeah.
so on identity, you just mentioned like that wasn't your word now, but like
Mm.
that we change, the time changes, the art
Yeah.
changes, everything changes. And then if you go back, it's never the same
Yeah.
because something fundamental has shifted. And like COVID was, I think, that for like everyone, everywhere, maybe to different
Hmm.
extents.
Hmm.
And maybe we what is it, contemplative or what, sensitive or what's the word,
Yeah.
associative, etc. types,
Yeah.
artist
Yeah.
types. We maybe sense this more strongly or feel this, and it comes out in the art. And maybe, right, it's we can never go back, right? So
Hmm.
I don't think anyone has been able to go back post-COVID. The world
Right.
changed
Right. Right.
fundamentally.
Right.
But like
Absolutely.
this
Yeah.
thing about like what is the identity? What is the self? What are we? Who are we? Who am I? And how have I changed? And I was going to try to find this piece because it was maybe in the first volume. Again, here I go. Which
Mm.
volume was
Mm.
it?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
got to flip back and forth. But where you wrote, Brian, you wrote something to the effect of like, was that the me of then? Is that the me of now? Or it changed
Yeah.
something? It's this thing
Yeah.
where the identity is shifting because the situation has shifted. It's what
Yeah.
you just said. And I just want to make one other quick comment about this and then maybe, like pass the conch. Do you remember
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
The glasses are cracked and
Yep.
pass the conch.
Yep.
So that I don't just keep blabbing. But this, I'm pretty heavily like invested in, let's say, invested in is a word. Like I've done Buddhist philosophy studies, and of
Yeah.
course I've done some Western philosophy. I'm interested
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
quantum physics lately, kind of interested in the whole things about like what is right, like the
Yeah.
desk is, and
Right.
metaverse and not what was
Right.
that? What is not Meta's metaverse or whatever the hell he
Yeah.
called
Yeah.
something or whatever. Not that. Not that one.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway,
Right.
not that Palantir. Sorry, that
Mm.
was a slip of the tongue. Anyway, not the Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Anyway, oh gosh, here we go again, Mark. What was I going to say? You see that I did a pew and then go back around.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the hell was I talking
You
about?
you
Identity,
were Yes,
identity,
exactly.
and
Hmm.
how we change. Oh, Buddhism.
Yeah.
What Buddhist philosophy or Buddhist kind of theory, whatever you want to call it, not religious practice, but not ritual, which we'll get back to.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
time because probably maybe there's a
Hmm.
time limit here
Yeah.
for you on your end, but that Buddhism, the self is fundamentally like the ego, the self,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
personality. It's
Yeah.
false,
Yeah.
meaning
Hmm.
it's not permanent. It's what you're saying. It changes, right? The
Yeah.
situation changed. The me of yesterday is not the me of today. We're
Yeah.
literally like scientifically our cells, right? We sleep at night. They renew every
Hmm.
second, every millisecond.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
constantly in
Yeah.
flux, even when it's still. We think
Hmm.
it looks like it's not changed, but this book in 10 years will be yellow, right? So
Right. Right.
like
Yeah.
work and our bodies deteriorate
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
change. I remember hearing you say in an interview, maybe, or it was somewhere about like we're essentially living in the same bodies,
Right.
but of course they're aging, but
They're
we're
changing, they're
essentially,
aging.
but
Yeah.
actually
Hmm.
they are changing even right now. By the
Right.
beginning of this interview, the end, our body's not the same, right?
Right. Right.
Even though
Right.
we don't sense that, or
Yeah.
like my beard, your beard has grown a little bit,
Right.
and tomorrow
Yeah.
morning
Yeah.
it'll be thicker.
Yeah.
Like that's not a permanent self because nothing is permanent kind of thing.
Right.
So then
Right.
who and what are we and how can we like even
Yeah.
like exist in like day to day be the same person
Right.
kind of
Right.
thing? I
I
feel
I
like
mean, I
strongly
feel like it's just
in
it's a
your work.
really useful illusion in some ways. I mean,
Yeah, right,
there's
right, right, right.
philosophers who argue that, and we've talked about this a little bit, that consciousness is like a mistake of evolution, that it kind of
Yes.
came up by accident.
Uh-huh.
And it's not that useful in terms of survival in certain cases, but it's developed so much for us that it's become something else that is quite useful. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a funny thing because on the one hand, you can acknowledge and feel that, everything changes all the time with my body. It's like I 5 years ago, my legs didn't hurt like they do now every time I get out of bed in the morning.
Right.
And the cells change, things change, hair changes color, lose
Sure.
all those sorts
Sure.
of things.
Sure.
But on the other hand, I mean, you do have this real sense of being, you know, being an I, being a
Yes.
person.
And this
and
also gets
that's
us into
interesting.
trouble sometimes, right?
It does get us into trouble
You
sometimes.
know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean the funny thing is all these things that we, there's a report in there which is called a report on forbidden beverages, I think it's called.
Yes, yes,
And
yes, yes, yes.
it's just about the fact that I used to drink not at all, and then I started drinking wine, and then I
That was the
started drinking
one.
beer. Yeah.
That was the one I was
Yeah.
referring to. And I read,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
At the end, that was the one. Let me actually, do you mind if I read that line,
No, go
your
ahead. Go
line?
ahead. Hmm.
Because this was exactly, thank you. You reminded me that was what I was actually thinking of in the first volume.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the beverages, was of course very funny. And I said to the students, I was like, maybe I shouldn't be reading one about oh no, no, or I joked about because it's got alcohol, you're talking about alcohol. And I was
Yeah.
like, maybe I'll have you write a report on forbidden beverages. And then I'm like, you're all underage, aren't you? Okay, let's not go there, right? Because you're talking about wine and beer. I was joking,
Yeah.
of course. But let me
Yeah.
seriously get to this if I
I
can
think it's in
find
the
it.
further reports. I think it's in the
Oh,
second
it's in
one.
further.
I
Oh, see,
think
I'm
so.
confused. Thank you, because now I can't find it.
Yeah.
That's why. Hold on, let me see if I can find that line is perfect. Yes, it is. Page
Okay.
21. You write at the end. This is what
Yeah.
I was thinking, and thank you. If I'm completely honest with myself, which I'm inclined to be, since I have just had a few drinks, and I love this, I have to admit that I do not understand the person I am now either. How did I become a beer drinker? Where did this come from? I sometimes wonder, seeing the can in my hand, what stranger am I holding this beer for? And then I remember I'm holding it for the stranger who is myself, and take a sip from the can in my hand. Now, this
Mm.
is it, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Who am
Yeah.
I? Who was I? Who is this stranger
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
who's holding this can right now that I'm
Yeah.
about to,
Right. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's certainly
Hmm.
not the person who was drinking another beverage. And by the
Right.
way, I still do you drink coffee now, or you still don't drink
I
coffee?
still don't really drink coffee.
Okay, okay. Because if you
So
said
I
yes, I was
drink
going to say
socially, I drink coffee. It's a weird thing. If I go out and someone's having coffee, I have coffee with them.
you
But
mentioned
at
that in
home,
that
I never
report.
have. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I still don't
just to
do
be
it.
polite.
So yeah. Yeah.
If
But
someone buys you a Starbucks, you say, okay, thank you, right?
right. Right.
It's
Right.
like the snack that falls under the desk.
Right. Right.
Oh, it's very delicious. Thank you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
but and it's funny because I mean it's partly tied to memory too because it's like there's these moments when you think about things in your past and it kind of reminds you of who you used to be and that ends up disorienting you from who you are at this particular moment sometimes as well.
Yeah.
And so it's a funny, strange thing. It's interesting to me.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, and it's like I think I've had some pretty big changes over years. Like I used to be Mormon, I'm no longer Mormon. That's
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest one, just because
Yeah.
it's a complete change in lifestyle. But I would imagine for you, it's like you used to live in the United States, you live in Japan now. It's like that feels big
You know
in
what's
terms.
even bigger for me, oddly? I mean, that's huge,
Uh-huh.
but what's even
Yeah.
bigger, because I've been in Japan for so long, and of course I was, and back and forth, and that
Right.
Brown actually was in between.
Right.
I also had a divorce.
Right. Yeah.
Then I had a 4 year, basically 4 years, almost 4 years relationship.
Yeah.
2020, actually,
Yeah.
the end of 29 to like the begin until maybe summer or fall of 2020.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, they're both in Japan, but my
Yeah.
move from Fukuoka to Tokyo,
Yeah. Yeah.
then moving with a partner, living together for 5 months.
Yeah.
COVID hits. I have no, suddenly I go from being full-time professor to
Right.
being not only part-time, but like almost having no work, and then COVID,
Yeah.
and then a
Yeah.
breakup, and then a move. That
Yeah.
one shattered my
Yeah.
sense of identity more than
Well,
anything.
it makes sense because there's so many different things and so many different aspects of your life, your professional
Right,
life, your personal life,
right,
and then COVID, just the way it just rearranged everything.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
And in my
yeah,
case, I moved in here, and suddenly I'm like completely alone.
yeah,
I was like
yeah.
Mr. Social, not at Brown, actually, I wasn't, but I wasn't at
You
all
weren't
at Brown.
unsocial.
I
You
was
were
not
you'd go
super
out.
social at
Yeah,
Brown, but like
yeah,
I really came out of my shell in a way in Fukuoka when I started
yeah,
doing bands and music again.
yeah,
Actually, I
yeah.
had the band problem. There's all these stories, but
Right.
but when COVID hit and I broke up and I knew no one in Tokyo, and then I was living alone here and I couldn't, like you say, like at Chatterby, I couldn't go out and even meet people, and I
Yeah,
couldn't get work and I couldn't do anything.
yeah.
That was when I wrote those really dark albums I mentioned,
Right, right,
because that
right.
shattered my sense of self.
Yeah, Yeah,
And
yeah,
who am I?
yeah.
What? And I have nobody to talk to
Right, right.
except on
Yeah,
Zoom or whatever. And I'm
yeah,
living in Tokyo, which is like a almost like a foreign
yeah,
country compared
yeah,
to
yeah.
Boca. So,
Right, right,
like you wrote
right.
about France and how nothing fits, I felt like
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
fits, though it was more metaphorical.
Right, right, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So
and
I could
it's
relate to that when you
right.
wrote those pieces,
Yeah, yeah.
that sense of like, what the hell, and you
That's
know,
great.
and
I
the
mean,
other
I'm sorry you went
partner.
through it, but I'm glad you could relate to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's um yeah, I mean, I think everybody of course had different COVID experiences, but I don't know
right.
anyone who was like, I had such a great COVID experience.
No,
Um,
no,
but I do think for some of us it was like it really um, you know, changed we just had to really recalibrate, and it was sometimes
absolutely.
very painful.
Yeah,
We had Max, and he did second grade. COVID started when he was in second grade, and so he was online for his second
yeah,
grade class.
yeah.
And we basically had to take turns taking second grade with him because it's
Yeah.
like, as a second grader, there's some things you can do, but you're not going to remember everything. And yeah, and then the teacher was going out of her mind. She's an older teacher, and she kept on. She could never figure out how to see all the kids on the screen, and just confused
Right.
constantly.
That was a big thing for, right? Like the
Yeah, yeah,
professors too. Some of the professors at university too were just like, I can't do this. Like I've been standing in
yeah,
front of a class for 20 years. Like the older, especially
yeah,
like
yeah,
some
yeah,
not really. Yeah.
yeah. It's
Holy,
true.
that was an
Yeah.
adjustment, huh?
Yeah, yeah. So, and she, like, there was one class period where she accidentally logged off, and the kids realized that they were all there on their own, and they just went crazy, and just like started, yelling and stuff, and they were, they're all in their Zoom rooms, they're all kind of at home,
Right.
but it was just,
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
super
Did
bizarre.
anyone
Yeah.
get did you get that a recording of that? I hope. No.
No, no, we didn't.
That would have been a good,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it
Funny's
would be.
clip.
Yeah,
All the kids go
very
crazy on
true.
Zoom. They're all in their own houses, and then the parents going crazy in each of the houses because
Right,
the parents
exactly.
in the room.
Yeah.
Where's your teacher? Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like what
So,
chaos.
yeah. But yeah, no, I know I have friends who broke up during Zoom. I mean, there was a lot of people who had relationships that were pretty good, but also like
Yeah.
when it's
Oh, I
suddenly
did.
just you, yeah, you and the person, it's like, wow, yeah,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
this is maybe
Right.
not it. Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
like the ultimate test of like the
Yeah,
relationship is like
exactly.
stay at home 24/7 together and
Right, right.
just like, are you
Yeah.
okay or not? And
Right.
I guess
Yeah.
I wasn't because I'm
Yeah,
together
yeah.
for 5 years, but it was like,
Yeah.
okay, time to move on. But yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah.
painful, huh, to like
Yeah.
kind of have that huge like paradigm almost shift of, and
Yeah.
of course, I
Yeah.
mean, this could be like a separate, if we like got on Zoom again just to talk about COVID days and not even necessarily like
Yeah.
the literature and like we
Yeah.
like, I have this whole thing. I'm actually working on a 2+ hour documentary on like from COVID to now because I got all this footage of
Mm.
me at home doing like a million talks to stay sane, which actually
Yeah.
weirdly I'm still doing them. It's kind
Right,
of like
right.
you still wrote more reports
Yeah. Yeah,
after you
yeah.
were kind of like, well, maybe I was going to use them to work through, not even
Yeah.
sure if I'm going to publish, but then you kind of made more.
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
you're going to do more, by the way. Like
Uh,
you got a fan of yours
yeah,
before.
I appreciate it. I might. I don't know. I think it just takes
The
something
timing, right?
happening where suddenly it just feels right to do them.
Oh,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
and
But I hope that, if that
yeah,
time
yeah.
comes.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it probably will. And it's interesting because the first book was much quicker in terms of how I wrote all those. The
Yeah.
second book was like all over, from the beginning of the pandemic till almost actually maybe even a little past the end. But yeah.
Yeah. And the second one, like I said, feels more like a little bit more, not philosophical. I mean,
Yeah.
philosophical. It's like the first, I do feel, if you will, like I
Hmm.
could feel the sense that you're working through like all the author
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
working through.
yeah. Right.
Like,
Yeah,
right now,
yeah.
don't say not the author is okay. Let me
Yeah,
take a
yeah.
step back.
That's fair.
Um,
That's fair. Yeah.
Working through the stuff, and I could, as I
Mhm.
said, I could personally relate to because I had that kind of COVID. Of course,
Yeah.
that was before COVID in your case, but you had the sickness and the breakup kind of thing. The author had, and
Yeah.
with
Yeah. You
right.
can say you. It doesn't bother me if you say that.
I'm
So.
kind of halfway joking because you know that thing we do in the classroom, like,
Yeah, yeah,
don't
yeah.
right, J and
Right.
J, right? Okay, so we
Right.
don't know who they are.
Yeah.
But this kind of thing, right? So, but
Yeah.
the second volume, and especially going back today, as I mentioned, this like the third time I'm saying this, but like these kind of like it feels a little bit more, how can I say, like you did take a bit more time, not to say that the earlier ones are
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
the worse for it. That actually they were,
Hmm.
to me, they were funnier, spontaneous, a little bit
Yeah.
lighter in a
Yeah.
way, although emotionally probably they were like deeper
Y-
and harder,
Yeah, but there
maybe
is a
we're
kind of,
using a kind of
yeah,
humor to I mean,
yeah,
Kobe is humor. I'm sitting and
yeah,
laughing,
yeah,
but it's
exactly.
serious,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
I think that's right. I think there's
Yeah,
a lightness or something in Kelby in the
right.
sense of the word. Yeah,
Like a
yeah,
Beckettian kind of,
yeah,
like it's like so
yeah,
horrible that you have to like laugh at it or
yeah,
else
yeah.
it's gonna go, I can't go
Right,
on, I'll go on, kind of like,
right, right.
just you'll go crazy.
Yeah,
She kind of does in
yeah.
the later novels, but the earlier ones, like
Right,
right
right,
when you
right.
get to the
Exactly.
unnameable or whatever, he's kind of going
Yeah,
crazy. But
yeah, yeah,
like before that with Godot or something, right? So it's like a
yeah,
slapstick almost. But
yeah.
the second, I don't know how much time you
I should probably
have.
go in like 5 minutes if that's
Okay,
okay.
so oh
And
gosh, so now I
we
have.
can do this another time. But yeah,
That'd be great. I mean,
yeah,
like, yeah, I'd love to just
yeah,
we can have a series. Like you're so busy and but I'd love to do this again, talk about COVID, talk about just kind of like
yeah,
even just, like kind of
yeah,
freestyling about and literature and
yeah,
things like
yeah, yeah.
and
No,
consciousness. And
that'd be
is it
that's fun. Yeah.
really a good thing always to have this freak of nature consciousness? Because like aren't we kind of destroying ourselves because we're too,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
We
this is
have
another like talk,
yeah.
but
Yeah. No,
maybe,
I mean, I think that's a difficulty. I mean, the way that self-consciousness is kind of turned, it's always looking inward as well as looking outward. And
right.
we maybe are looking more and more inward. And, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're in a very weird moment with AI and other things like that.
We
It's
really
very hard to
are.
know where we're going to come out of with that. It's like I just today, it's like I have a school computer and they updated Microsoft Word. And now it
Thanks, Brian.
has
That's
like yeah, I know. And now it has like the little AI thing on it. And I like, how do I get this whatever it's called? I can't even remember.
yeah.
But
Look,
it's
the
like
lights
on
came
there.
on.
Yeah, the lights came back on.
That was good timing.
Um, and so I spent like an hour today like trying to get it off, and it's like they have made it so it's just very hard to figure out how to get it off. So it is like, I mean, the way in which that stuff insinuates our lives, the way in which it changes our thinking. I have students who use a lot of AI stuff when they're writing papers, and you can really
God.
tell it's just so
Oh
terrible, and it's not good
God.
for them in terms of just the way their brain is working. So
That's a whole
yeah,
other thing, yeah,
that's a
which
whole
we
other
don't have
thing.
time for.
Yeah.
But no, I'm in the
No.
same because, like, I mean, and in
Yeah.
fact, like, sometimes complaining about this, like, right, this whole
Yeah.
AI thing is just. No, it's not just AI though. Actually, it's
Yeah.
the toggling and the 2-second videos and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
all of
No,
it. Of course, AI
totally.
is part of
Totally.
that, right, and
Yeah.
makes it
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
worse in the writing. Like, give a prompt and the thing writes your paper, and it's like
Yeah.
you haven't used your head at all,
Right.
and that's like
Exactly.
going to just chip away at the whole.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
no, there's a whole other conversation, huh? But
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. But consciousness, right? And your story, Never Little, Never Grown. I know you have to go soon, but
Yeah.
like, right, it's sort of dealing with that in a different way. But like how the technology of like this kind of a type of artificial
Yeah.
intelligence, or a
Yeah.
robot, or a
Hmm.
person who doesn't know it's not a person until
Right.
at one point
Right.
it does, and then it's like, do I even wanna? And that goes back to
Yeah.
memory. Do I even
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
know because it was hurtful and painful?
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes maybe some of us wish we could put all the bad memories in a chip and toss it, huh?
Right. Right.
But
Right.
then
Yeah.
we'd be
You wouldn't be who you've become. Yeah.
then there goes the identity thing again, right? So
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
maybe we should wrap up on this because I know you have to go. Brian,
Yeah.
it's always such a pleasure, and like I would love to talk to you I could talk, well, maybe I could, 3 hours and you'd be like my student sleeping, but always a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out of your day, and I'm glad
Oh,
you like
it's my pleasure. It's my
maybe
pleasure.
coming back on, or they were on, but now they're off again.
They seem to be flickering. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a backup battery, and so it probably means that the rest of the neighborhood is out and we still have our
Oh
lights.
my
So
God, really? Oh
yeah,
gosh.
yeah,
I
yeah.
thought you
So
were just like trying to do like the Haunting of Hill House or do
no,
like an
no, no,
Edgar Allan
no,
Poe-esque.
no. I don't know what's going on. It's not. It doesn't seem good.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks after Halloween, so I guess it's
Yeah,
late for
yeah,
that. But
yeah.
yeah, I
So
hope you
this
get
is
that
yeah spookiest video.
situated. All right, I'll let you go, Brian. Thank you. Have a
Okay,
lovely day, weekend, night,
thank
evening,
you.
weekend,
You
and
have a
let's
good
talk
day too.
soon.
It's yeah, absolutely. Take care.
Thank you for this.
You're welcome.
Take care. Thanks, Brian. Bye bye.